Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Undvidamnena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mali Hai Kareshe Bija Arupan Shravana Kirtana Jale Kare Shechan Tahan Vistarita Hai Pali Prema Pal Ihan Mali Sheche Nitya Shravanadi Jal Vairagya Vijja Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartamekam Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradari Kripam Buddhir Yastamaham Prapadye Kalanashtam Bhakti Yogan Nishtam Ja Pradushkartam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nama Avirbhutas Tasya Padara Vinde Gadam Gadam Liyatan Chabringam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavin Nitai Namineche Namir Hate Sharamulyena Dite Chere Nitai Namineche Namir Hate Sharamulyena Dite Chere Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The first time I saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I felt attracted. It was on the cover of a Back to Godhead magazine. And Mahaprabhu is dancing through a tropical landscape. I could see banana trees. And behind him there were devotees who were also dancing. And he was leading them. And in the next page, there was a picture of Srila Prabhupada with a lush garland that had enveloped his neck, and practically his whole torso was covered with the garland. And it said, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I was taken by that, in that it grabbed me. I was looking for a divine grace. And Srila Prabhupada wrote in the Back to Godhead magazine that we're following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. That was his lecture that was transcribed in that magazine. And I felt the immediate urge that I would like to also follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. As Prabhupada pointed out, and there were pictures of a Guru Parampara. And it started with Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, and then it had the picture of the founder of the organization that was following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and had pictures of devotees who were doing service in parks and things like that, distributing books, holding forth, speaking, and so forth. And it looked attractive to me. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had come specifically to spread the Yuga Dharma as his duty as the scheduled avatar. But he took advantage of that in order to fulfill his own purposes. And I didn't know anything about his purposes. I just thought it sounded like a good idea because it was an authorized system to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But as the Caitanya-caritāmṛt came out around 1975, Srila Prabhupada was translating it at record speed. Record means there were other people at that time trying to come out with the Caitanya-caritāmṛt, specifically a professor at University of Chicago who was a scholar in Gaudiya Vaishnavism in Bengali. He wrote a whole course, which I still have on cassette if you want to learn Bengali. His name was Professor Dimak. And Prabhupada, as usual, was eager to get his books out as fast as possible. In fact, he had written a summary of the Caitanya-caritāmṛt before he released it in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. But he had extra impetus to finish the Caitanya-caritāmṛt quickly so that people in the world could read it. And at the time that it came out, Prabhupada had invited all of us to come to Mayapur and Vrindavan to be with him. And during the Bhagavatam classes, he was giving class on Caitanya-caritāmṛt. He spoke on the first verses and had the devotees repeat them, starting with Vande Guru Nisha Bhaktan and Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And then the verse about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being Brahman, Paramatman, and Bhagavan. It's the original source of everything. And then he came to the verses, Anarpita Charim Chirat Karin Avatirna Kalau. How in the age of Kali Yuga, something amazing had happened, and that was that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared to reveal something that had never been revealed before. And that was the kind of love that his devotees in Vrindavan have. As is mentioned by Kaviraj Goswami in the beginning of the Caitanya-caritāmṛt, Krishna is not so much impressed with the opulence of the worship of the devotees in Vaikuntha. In fact, it's specifically said there that he appreciates more, or relishes, in fact, the scolding of his intimate associates, the gopis in Vrindavan, more than he likes the reverent hymns of the Vedas. That's a revelation to the world. As he said, most people everywhere worship me with a sense of reverence. But it takes something away. We see that famous people generally get tired of being venerated. In fact, there's an actor in America named George Clooney. And I read an article about how he had moved to a village in Italy. It's off the beaten path. And he had met with all the city council there before going there to make a pact that he would just be treated as a normal person in the village. He didn't want any special care. He didn't want anybody coming near his house. And he guaranteed also that he would make sure that no paparazzi came there. He said, I just want to go somewhere where I can be myself. And Krishna, according to Kaviraj Goswami in the Caitanya-caritāmṛt, he just wants to be himself. Vrindavan is Krishna at home, without any sense of godhood. There, everyone just loves him because he's charming and does amazing things, but they never think he's God. In fact, at home, when Krishna gets in trouble, Yashoda, Nanda, others, they worship Lord Narayan, praying, please protect our Krishna. And this was the revelation of the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛt, that is expressed by Srila Prabhupada in one of his purports in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a chapter or a verse about introspection and coming to know the difference between our body and ourselves. It starts like that. It says that there's a way in which if we observe our hands or our feet and we look at our hands and feet and say, these are mine. We don't say, I hand, my. We say, my hand or my foot. Then he says, you can notice all the senses and you can see how they're empowered. They do amazing things that we have nothing to do with. We just take advantage of them. And he advises a person, and he says it's very easy to do, to see you're not your body. To become observant of the fact that you're the witness of the body, you're not your body. And then he, to the next step, takes us to seeing how intelligence comes to us, as if a parent is speaking to us and giving good advice. And he shows how this is the presence of the Supersoul. He calls it the form direction of God, that he's informing us. That intelligence is coming from the Supreme within our heart. And then he says, by logic we can understand, but by the definition of God as the Supreme, it's not that he is. It's not that he's simply an order supplier. We can understand that he, as the Supreme, he must have his own preferences, besides just fulfilling the desires of the souls within this world, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridaya shara janatistati. He said, therefore you could understand logically that there's another realm in which God has his own preferences fulfilled, and he has his own life, separate from fulfilling the desires of the living entities or controlling the material world. So in this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur notes that there are various names of the Lord. Some of them are called secondary names. They're in relationship with the material world. Jagadishvar, controller of the Jagat, and so forth. But the names that Krishna really likes are the names they're called primary names that are in relationship with his pure devotees, like Yashoda Nandana or Nandanandana. All of us have a legal name, I hope. Otherwise, good luck with your visa. And we also have nicknames that our best friends or parents call us, or your grandmother may call you something that nobody else calls you, right? So in a similar way, Krishna has nicknames. If somebody calls you by your nickname walking down the street here in Puri, outside calling from a window, you'll immediately turn around and think, oh, somebody knows me. And in the realm where Krishna is at home, everyone calls him by his favorite names. So in the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛt, we find out all the activities of Krishna in his own realm. And coming to Jagannath Puri, we enter into the place where Krishna himself comes to experience the deepest love of his devotees in that highest realm. Because he notices that the devotees, in seeing Krishna, are enjoying his beauty so much that they're enjoying more than he is. And Krishna himself tries to appreciate his own beauty. In fact, he does. It's mentioned in a verse. Then in a polished marble pillar in Dwarka, he looks and sees himself and is so taken aback by the beauty of the reflection he's seeing. He wants to embrace himself. But how can you do that? So thus comes the mystery of the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛt, in which Krishna, although the supreme enjoyer, can enjoy as much as his devotees, and especially his chief devotee, Srimati Radharani. Worth quoting is a verse that reveals the internal reasons that Krishna came. Śraddhāya pranaya mahima kidrishovana yaiva swadyo yena bhuta madhurinma kidrishova maniyaha saukyam chasya mad anubhavata kidrisham veti lobat tad bhavatya samajani shachigarbha sindhu harindu. This verse is written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and talks about the ways in which Krishna wants to discover the greatness of Srimati Radharani's love, the pleasure she feels when she sees him, and the happiness she experiences. So, in Jagannath Puri, we have the event that takes place in the Madhya Lila, describing the Rath Yatra ceremony. And it's parallel with chapter 83 of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the story that takes place here, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relishes again and again, and here in the Gambhira comes to relish the deepest emotions. That's why this place is called Gambhira. Gambhira means deep. Is the story of Krishna in the 83rd chapter of the Bhagavatam coming to Kurukshetra. Krishna had left Vrindavan and said he would be back. And then he got engaged in various other duties outside of Vrindavan, Mathura and then in Dwarka. He was in Mathura for some time after Jarasandha had attacked Mathura 17 times. Then Krishna transferred all his devotees to Dwarka, and he also made a fortress there in the sea, and he went there as well. All this took over 100 years, and he was away from Vrindavan. So the residents of Vrindavan were pining for Krishna every single day that he was away. And then there was an announcement that there would be a meeting, a gathering at Kurukshetra, the famous place where Parashuram had made some ghats with the blood of the Kshatriyas he had killed, and it had become a holy place of sacrifice and coming to do religious rituals over the years that the Yadu dynasty had used for millennia. And Krishna then decided to go there to observe the eclipse of the sun. And there would be special religious rituals, but his real reason was to be able to meet with the residents of Vrindavan without attracting attention to Vrindavan, because after he had left Vrindavan, Krishna was very much aware that there were various envious demons still on the planet. There had been a buildup of these demoniac people. In fact, they were taking shelter of Bhumi, the earth, in order to organize their campaign of demoniac activities around the universe. So Krishna, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam, one of his duties to kill the demons. And as he left Vrindavan, he was aware of the fact that if he brought attention to Vrindavan, they would also come there and harass the residents of Vrindavan. So he needed a ploy to meet with the residents of Vrindavan without bringing any attention to Vrindavan. Therefore, he called for a mela, like Sadhu Sangha, where everybody comes from all parts of the world, all parts of the universe. Sages came from everywhere because they heard Krishna was going to be there for this observance. And the way that they had announced it was through bards who would go from village to village, city to city. They played drums and they would announce in singing that there was a mela coming, or an observance at Kurukshetra. So when the residents of Vrindavan heard this, they decided to come to meet with Krishna. There are some peculiarities in that, mentioned in Gopal Champu and elsewhere, about how Krishna devotees in Vrindavan, some of whom didn't come because they had complete awareness of Krishna still being there. As we know from the Krishna book, Prabhupada talks about how after Krishna left Vrindavan, and there's a verse that states he never leaves Vrindavan, he was still there in his bhava form. And certain devotees, like the cowherd boys, didn't feel like Krishna was gone because they saw him every day and they were playing with him in his bhava form. Whereas others who had a different type of emotion and relationship with Krishna, like the gopis of Vrindavan and his parents, felt intense separation. So they had organized a convoy. Now Krishna's convoy had come from Dwarka and others had come from various opulent places. It's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam that they came to Kurukshetra with chariots that were gilded, infantry, all with valuable jewels, elephants. Hard to maintain an elephant when you're traveling, yet they had thousands, and horses. And the pageantry that went along with Krishna's kingly position. And there were millions that came to Kurukshetra at that time. So this built a certain contrast, not a certain contrast, a distinct contrast with those that came from Vrindavan. Described they came in these wagons, like covered wagons, like the milk wagons. They brought some milk products there to share with Krishna. And they came, simple village people had come. And then there was all of the soldiers, sages from all parts of the universe. We all right? Is this... You should take care of Vishnu Gada. Prabhupada said you have to keep a cool head. So Krishna was entertaining the sages and various dignitaries who had come from places around the universe. But then he got word that his most intimate devotees had arrived in Kurukshetra. And at that time, Krishna went to meet them. The story's there in the 83rd chapter of the Bhagavatam, when he meets Nanda and Yashoda. They see him just as their little child. Now he's grown up and he's in kingly attire. They hold him on their laps. And Vasudeva, Devaki are there also. And they try to speak to Yashoda, but she's in some kind of otherworldly state where she doesn't even hear them talking. Devaki mentions to others of her associates there that she can't hear you now. And we see a mixing of the different kinds of devotees from various places. In fact, it's mentioned there that the queens of Dwarka were also present and the gopis are present. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the gopis didn't have a very favorable view of the queens of Dwarka. After all, we hear them in various places saying, yeah, Krishna's off in the city now with these city women. What does he care for us anymore? And the interesting point he makes, they're all interesting, is that they're expansions of expansions, because all the queens of Dwarka come from Srimati Radharani. She's the supreme Shakti of Krishna, and from her all the other Shaktis come, starting with the wives of Krishna in Dwarka, and then of course, we have all the gopis from Srimati Radharani, then the queens in Dwarka, and then the Lakshmis in Vaikuntha, and then there's Maya Devi herself, which is the other expansion coming originally from Srimati Radharani. All Shaktis come from her. But they have this clash of culture because they're thinking, who are these other women here? And Krishna meets with the gopis and then Srimati Radharani. So this is the apex of the story of Rath Yatra, is the meeting between Srimati Radharani and Krishna after over 100 years, and they're there in Dwarka. So there's very meaningful verses, two of them especially, that relate to this. And these are the kinds of verses that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear at the Gambhira to inflame the feeling of separations, which is described in the Caitanya-caritāmṛt as being like having nectar poured upon you, being drenched in the greatest nectar, while at the same time experiencing the severe poisonous bite of a serpent. It's like ice is so cold that it burns like fire. And this is the most intense feeling of love for Krishna in this Vipralambha Bhav. So we're going to sing these two verses in a tune that we find very much matches the place here, because it's kind of a deep tune. And if you turn to page number, I was there before, Yakomara. We're first going to sing Yakomara sa seibahivaras. That's a tune. This is a verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu adopted. He heard it on the radio or something, because this was a popular tune at the time. Actually, not a popular tune at the time. It was in a textbook teaching about literature and composition. And actually, this is a verse that was considered to be a little off the beaten path, or maybe even crass, because it's about a love affair or a woman thinking about her early days of courtship and then pining for them after she's married. And it goes like this. Yakoma, page 129. Yakomara harasa eva hivaras ta eva chaitra shapas te kon militamaliti surabaya Broda kadambanila Sachaiva smitata pitatra surata Vyapara lila vido Revaroda siveta sitarutare Cheta samudkantate. Last line again. Revaroda siveta sitarutale. What are you singing? I'm going to read the translation. This is the translation. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth, is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sang that song again and again and asked Swarup Damodar to sing it during the Rath Yatra. It's a secular song. Nobody knew what it meant except for Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami. As later here in Jagannath Puri, when Rupa Goswami came, he rewrote the verse to match the circumstances. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was utilizing it to expand his ecstasy and separation, because the woman in this verse is saying that, yeah, we're here together, but it's not the same. Remember the time when we first met and we were there by the moonlit river under that special tree, and it was so intense. And something's gone. So in the same way, at Kurukshetra, what happens is Krishna meets with Srimati Radharani. And Radharani says, in the next verse we're going to sing a similar thing. And it goes in the tune that we sing to the Jagannath Ashtakam. Jagannath Ashtakam. Priya soyam Krishna sahachari kure. A little bit about how to sing this. You have to hold the E in Kshetra an extra long beat, and for it to fall together. And at the end, Vipinaya, the long A, you can hang on to that, and then it all fall together for us. Okay? Priya soyam Krishna sahachari kuru kshetra militas tataham saradha tad idam ubayor sangamba sukam tatap yanta kelan madura muruli panjamadushe mano me kalindi pulina vipinaya sprihayati. One more time. Mano me kalindi pulina vipinaya sprihayati. My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I would still like to go to the bank of the Jamuna, beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan. That's the song written by Srila Rupa Goswami on a palm leaf that he then placed in the thatch of the roof in which he was staying. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came from taking his bath in the ocean, he saw this palm leaf like a flag sticking from the roof. And he plucked it out and he read it. And when he saw Srila Rupa Goswami, he gave him a slap out of love. He said, how did you know my mind? And later when he meets with the other Mahajans, he asks Ramananda Roy and Surudamodar, how did he know my mind? They said, you must have empowered him because nobody else could understand this. But what's most amazing is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed it to the whole world. Although it's the greatest secret, and this understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who comes to relish the position of greatest devotee, is rolled out in Philadelphia and Chicago, San Francisco, Cairo, Abu Dhabi, not yet, but everywhere in the world, people are singing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to Lord Jagannath as he goes down the road. And they're on the threshold of entering into the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just as I did as a teenager in Lafayette, California, with no business in the realm of Sri Jagannath Puri or anywhere else. No scent of Hare Krishna or Vrindavan there, but Prabhupada brought it. And that's what we're doing by spreading the Hare Krishna movement all over the world. And to celebrate that and to enter into the mood of the Gambhira, we're going to sing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra together in a mysterious tune that matches the depth of the Gambhira. Shiva Ranjani. But first we're going to sing one verse that goes to this tune that Krishna said to the gopis here in Kurukshetra when they met with him here. They said, yeah, we know you're Krishna, but we want you to come back to Vrindavan because it's not the same. And they said in a sarcastic way to him, all the time you're giving us instruction. You sent Uddhava to Vrindavan with a letter for us, telling us to be yogis. Said Krishna, you may think it's funny, but nobody's laughing. Said, we're gopis. We don't want to meditate. You tell us that you're everywhere, but we're trying to forget you, and we can't. And Krishna says, actually, I cry for you day and night. I never forget you. And then he says this verse, Mai Bhakti Hir Bhutanam. You can see it here. Amritat Vaya Kalpate Jishte Yat Asin Matsneho Vavatina Manapanaha. It's a very important verse because it's at this juncture Krishna says to them, actually, there are many, all living entities are my eternal servitors, and there are so many devotees. But you've achieved a unique position that nobody else has ever achieved. And he acknowledges that nobody's love is superior to yours. At that point, the gopis were satisfied. Can you find it? Where is it, please? 130? Page 130 at the top. You're going to have to sing high. Maya bhaktir hibhutana amritatvaya kalpate dishtya yad asin matsneho bhavatina madapanaha. Try it again. My bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate dishtya yad asin matsneho bhavati namanapana. And one other verse below it. Ahushchate nalina nanava pararavindam yogeshvara hridi vichintamagada bodhai samsara kupapitato taranavalam geham drushamapi manayasudayat sadana. That's the gopis' reply to Krishna when at Kurukshetra he again tries to give them instructions in Sankhya and saying, if you just realize that I'm all pervading, there'll be no problem for you. And they reply to him in this verse, Ahushchate nalina nava padadavin. Oh, my beautiful lotus-naveled Lord, we're just householders. What do you expect from us? We're not going to meditate. We're simple people from the village, live in houses, we have pots and pans, take care of cows, we make butter. We're not yogis. And there's a commentary to this verse that's very important because it says this is out of sarcastic anger that they're speaking at Krishna. It's one of the emotions of the intimate associates of Krishna. They can be sarcastic with him. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, what they're saying is, Krishna, these instructions about yoga and jnana you're giving us are like the sun. They're burning us. We don't want the sun, we want the moon of your beautiful face, because we just want to appreciate your beauty. We don't want to hear philosophy. So please don't tell us these things anymore. And these verses from the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛt are the kinds of verses that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sang and relished here in the Gambhira.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitang Savadhutang Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Śraddhā Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitam Cha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Shayam Rupakata Maikyam Dadati Sha Pandantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'll try to speak a little bit about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You know that Sarvabhauma appeared, or was born, in, where? In the Nadia district. Nadia district. Yeah. In America we have counties. And in India you have districts. What do you have in England? I don't know. Counties, okay, so same. In India is district, and so the same county as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But in his earlier life, he became a student of a Pandit in Mithila, in Bihar, who was very expert in Nyaya. Nyaya means logic. And he was so intelligent that even though the logician teacher, I don't remember his name, but he forbid his students to copy any of his stuff. But Sarvabhauma memorized it all and then started a school. He went back to Bengal and started a school in Navadvip about logic. This is described in the book Jai Jagannath. Have you seen that book? Yeah, anyway, there it says, although there's no reference given, that he was doing wonderfully in his school in Navadvip, and one of his students was Gangadas Pandit. And Gangadas Pandit just happened to be the early teacher of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what did he learn? Logic. So there was a connection. So later, when Sarvabhauma met Lord Chaitanya, he put all these things together. You remember? So anyway, according to that book, he had his school there from 1460 to 1480. But then he left there and went to Puri because the Muslim governor there at that time was burning all the Hindu temples and burning the houses of the Hindus. And I don't know, but that might be why where in the Adi Leela of Caitanya-caritāmṛt, we don't get information about Lord Chaitanya attending or visiting temples in Bengal. I never thought of that until just recently. I thought, yeah, they chant. The chanting is there, but not only when he left Bengal and came to Orissa, then he started visiting various temples like Kirchora Gopinath, Shakshi Gopal, different temples of Lord Shiva, Lingaraja, and then Jagannath, you know. So, this was right after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. He came to Puri, you know this, and his first business in coming to Puri after seeing Lord Jagannath, he said, was to deliver Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, which is very interesting. I mean, Sarvabhauma was a very, very famous person. He had thousands and thousands of students. He was elderly. He was a little bit older or on the same level of Lord Chaitanya's father, Jagannath Mishra. But he was well regarded, and he was also the counselor of the king, Prataparudra Maharaj. So he was very highly placed, very famous, because he was teaching Nyaya, and he also was teaching the Vedanta philosophy according to the Shankara method, Shankaracharya. So Lord Chaitanya came to deliver Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And why did he want to deliver Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, do you think? Because Sarvabhauma was suffering. He was stuck in his logic, isn't it? Everybody in the material world, whatever your learning, whatever your opulence, whatever your fame, whatever your beauty, we're all suffering. And Sarvabhauma was suffering. And Lord Chaitanya came specifically to deliver Sarvabhauma, and by doing that, he was able to spread Krishna consciousness through his network of devotees all over the eastern part of India. So you know how it happened. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we heard how he went early before the other devotees to the temple of Jagannath. And then when he saw Lord Jagannath, he went to try to embrace Lord Jagannath. And then, you remember what happened? What happened? He fainted, yeah. And then the chokidar, which chokidars do, he was coming to beat Lord Chaitanya. You remember that? And Sarvabhauma said, no, don't beat him. And then he checked him out. He took some cotton and he put it near his, and he could see, he's breathing, but practically his whole body was inert. And then, because he was very intelligent, he could understand that these symptoms that Lord Chaitanya was displaying, what you remember the name of what these symptoms, what they were called? It's kind of very, very technical. Sudipta Sattvika. Yeah, there's all these different levels of trance, in devotional trance. Sudipta means it's fully inflamed. There's 8 symptoms, and it goes all the way. So Lord Chaitanya was displaying all these 8 symptoms, which are only manifest in the body of very elevated souls like Srimati Radharani or the Gopis, all these great souls, Mahabhava. And even though Sarvabhauma was on the impersonal line, still he could recognize these great, these wonderful symptoms of Lord Chaitanya. So he decided to have Lord Chaitanya brought to his home. And then, just by chance, the devotees who were following Lord Chaitanya came, Mukunda, and they met Gopinath Acharya, who happened to be related to Sarvabhauma. How were they related? Do you remember? Yeah, he was the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma. So he said, oh, they talked about the sannyasi. He heard that there was a sannyasi that came and he fainted and he was brought to Sarvabhauma's house. So he, oh, I know that house. So all the devotees went to Sarvabhauma's house and he welcomed them. Lord Nityananda was there. Lord Nityananda and Sarvabhauma, even though Lord Nityananda wasn't a sannyasi, very interestingly, Sarvabhauma offered him respect and took the dust from his feet. Very interesting, very interesting. And then he said, why don't you go see Lord Jagannath? Oh, okay. Oh. So then, when they came back, they chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, and Lord Chaitanya came back to external consciousness, and then he had all the devotees he brought Jagannath Mahaprasad for them. You remember that? This seems like the activity of a devotee, right? And Lord Chaitanya said, well, I just take a little lafra vryanjan, means some boiled vegetable. And he said, why don't you take the prasadam just like Lord Jagannath took it? So then Lord Chaitanya agreed. So then there was some discussion, you remember this, there was some discussion between Gopinath Acharya and Lord Chaitanya, and Sarvabhauma and his disciples. And Sarvabhauma was thinking, you know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is such a young man, and he's a handsome, gorgeous person. How can he remain a sannyasi? Isn't it? And so he recognized Lord Chaitanya's incredible beauty. And so I should teach him Vedanta, really, so to get him really fixed up in renunciation. And Gopinath Acharya and the devotees heard that, and they said, no, you don't understand. You do not understand. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they said, no. He may be a saintly person, yeah. But in Kali Yuga, there's no incarnation of God. And he quoted from a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that in the Kali Yuga, there's only 3 ages where Lord Krishna appears. But then Gopinath Acharya, he said, Bhagavata Bharata Dvi Shastrir Pradhan. Bhagavata Bharata. Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bharata means the Mahabharata. These 2 Shastras you've neglected in your analysis of the incarnations. And then he quoted, and you know the verses that Gopinath Acharya quoted, I'm sure you know them. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangha Pangashtra Parshadam Jagyar Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedhasa. In this age of Kali, Krishna will appear he's the category of Krishna Varnam, but Tvish Akrishnam, his body is not like Krishna's in color, golden. Sango Pangastra Parshadam. And his astras are accompanying him. What are his astras? His associates, yeah. Advaita Prabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Srivas, Gadadhar, yeah. Ashtra, Parshadam, Jagyar Sankirtana Prayar, and those people who are Sumedhasa, Medha means intelligent, and Sumedhasa means woke. You're woke. It's supposed to be funny. Woke. You don't know? Okay, all right. Sumedhasa. Those people are really smart, really intelligent. They're going to be in, I'm like you. Chanting Hare Krishna. And then he said, Suvarna Varna He Mango. There's also the verse from Mahabharata he quoted. But Sarvabhauma didn't pay much attention. He didn't think it was. They're relatives, and your own relatives, they don't take things too seriously, oftentimes. Like I have an older sister, and I tried to preach to her, and she said, yeah. Isn't it happen like that? Anyway, so he was like that. Sarvabhauma said, didn't take it seriously. He said, I still should teach him Vedanta. And when Lord Chaitanya heard about it, what did he say? Oh, this is very nice. This is very nice. He's being considerate of me. I will hear from him. I'll hear from him. So this is a little mind-boggling, because in Srila Prabhupada often says, quoting Lord Chaitanya, that Mayavadi Bhashya, how does it go? Sarvanash. Yeah, if you hear the commentary of the Mayavadis, your whole spiritual life will be finished. And here's Lord Chaitanya, who's the emblem and the example of devotees ready to hear and actually hearing the Mayavadi Bhashya for 7 days. How's that possible? How's that possible? Huh? So the specific commentary isn't there to give the exact reason, although Lord Chaitanya said when he heard that Sarvabhauma wanted to teach him Vedanta, he said, oh, he's like my father. He's trying to act like my father. So, there was Putana. Putana came like a mom, but Krishna accepted it, isn't it? I was in Hyderabad. You were in Hyderabad in 1875, vaisesika Prabhu. And the devotees had invited different dignitaries to speak on the stage. And there was one member of parliament who came and spoke. He must have spoke for 15 minutes, and Srila Prabhupada was sitting there. And he was speaking Mayavadi philosophy for 15 minutes. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What's happening? But just Srila Prabhupada accepted the service of this person, even though it was a Mayavadi philosophy. So Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Sankirtan, even though this was ordinarily, this is, you don't drink poison like Lord Shiva, but ordinarily you don't do that. But Lord Chaitanya accepted the service of Sarvabhauma, and with superior logic, he was able to defeat him in describing, like this morning, we heard about the Atmarama verses. And this is very significant. One reason it's significant is Sarvabhauma was an older man, and he had thousands of disciples, and he was very highly placed. Now, we used to do a play on the streets of Manhattan called The Wrong Bank Account. Does anybody know that play? Skit. So only the thing is that there's a person who's making deposits in a bank every week, every month, and then at the end, he finds the bank teller that he always sees dies, and he says, okay, I want to withdraw all my money. I'm going to take a trip around the world. And then the bank teller says, wait a minute. Your account number isn't what you said it is. It's really another one. All these years, you've been putting your money in the wrong bank account. Yeah. So that you could say that's Sarvabhauma, isn't it? Sarvabhauma. He had to admit that all these years he'd been doing the wrong thing. But Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya's movement was so wonderful and so attractive that he was able to change just very quickly from this impersonal absorption to the loving devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is amazing. There's a saying that it's very difficult to teach an old dog new tricks. Have you heard that? Yeah, I'm not calling Sarvabhaumacharya a dog, but because we get habits, we have habits. And the more the habits go on, the harder it is to change them. Just like in psychology, if you talk to somebody and if they've been drinking for 10 years, it's harder to change it and if they've been drinking only for 1 year or 2 years, you follow. So similarly, Sarvabhauma had been doing this his whole life. What to speak of us? How many lifetimes have we been practicing trying to gratify our senses? Think about that. Many, that's our practice, hasn't it? My practice has been. But in spite of that, Lord Chaitanya's mercy is so great that he can flip us just like that in a very short time. And that was predicted by his brother-in-law, Gopinathacharya. Because when they were discussing, Gopinathacharya said, yeah, you don't listen to me. But then he said that verse, you know the verse, which, Atapite deva padambujadvayam prashado leshano grihita evahi janati tadvam bhagavan mahino nachanyam ekopi charan vichinvan. He said, if you want to speculate and do logic for millions of years, you try it, it's not going to work. But if you can just get a drop, prashado lesha means one drop. If you can just get a drop of mercy from Krishna, then you can understand him as much as possible. This is wonderful. So we're so fortunate that we have been able to participate in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. And Srila Prabhupada, as we say every morning, Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu. Karuna Sindhu means there's an ocean of mercy, and we only need a little drop. Surely he could give us a little drop, right? We can get it, okay. And by their mercy. So we beg that way for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya, and all the assembled devotees today. Hare Krishna. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasinibhyo dacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Fine. Horimashita, Hogya. Ijo. We're finished. We got to come here somehow or other, and I really want to thank Divyanāma and Śraddhā Devī Dāsī for threading the needle, because it's not so easy to land in all these places and have a stretch of time that we've had to just sit here and do bhajan. And I keep resonating with the cleaning ladies who asked Ānanda Vrindāvana if we all live in one ashram back in California. And she said, no, we're from all over the world. But these yātrās are like living in one ashram and having the opportunity to see what it's like, see how you like it, just hearing and chanting and going to holy places. And if you do like it, you're really lucky, because this is life. And then the other part of the life is to take whatever drop we get and give it to as many people as possible. And the spiritual mathematics given in the Caitanya-caritāmṛt is the more you give it out, the more it swells in our own lives. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, dear Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Srila Ramananda Roy, Srila Swarup Damodar, and all the residents of Jagannath Puri who are followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you so desire, please instill in our hearts a drop of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for you're his great devotees, so that we can follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya by following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and his followers, and bring millions and millions of people back here to Jagannath Puri to chant, dance, and live in one huge ashram. Make the whole world one ashram, with everyone chanting and hearing. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Divyanāma.
Hare Krishna. So just one piece of information I want to share with all of you. The Mahant here has told this. Two months ago, His Holiness Indradyumna Maharaj was here. And the devotee who's here, who's our contact, he was in Navadip, ISKCON, and he's now here. He moved here. And he had a desire to open up a library here of Srila Prabhupada's various language books. So in 2 months' time, they're starting the work. The whole floor you see upstairs, The entire place will be Bhaktivedanta library, Srila Prabhupada books in many languages, and it will be free for people locally to come here and read Srila Prabhupada books here. So just 2 months ago, working with Indradyumna Maharaj, they got the permission and they're going to start the work. So I just wanted to share that with all of you here. So.